Hey, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who all learned this truth from the root well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000 and the rest of the 1/3, the large multitude unto you I say shalom. Coming to you back with another lesson through the Spirit, and I'm entitled this one, we're at the end of Esau's kingdom. And who is Esau? Edom, spoken about in the scriptures, today will be known as the self-proclaimed white man. But through his deception, lying, stealing of identities, he's been able to hide himself under all these different nations. He pretty much has made himself out to be every nation in the world except his real identity, which is the Edomites, which are the descendants of Esau, which is Jacob's twin brother that was prophesied to be given the whole earth as a temporary blessing. But we know that his blessing is only temporary, it's not eternal, because ultimately he sold his birthright for a morsel of meat. He sold it to Jacob for a morsel of meat, which was that eternal blessing, the kingdom of ruling the entire earth for eternity, because ultimately only the nation of Israel that comprises of the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans are going to have that inheritance. The rest of these other nations, the self-proclaimed white people, these Indians, Elamites, Chinese, they want next. Because all these different nations, they think when America falls, when his empire crumbles, that they're going to get next. They're going to get the next world empire, be the next world superpower. But we know that ultimately the nation of Israel, Yasharallah, has next, which is going to be a kingdom is going to be a kingdom that's never going to be brought down. It's going to be eternal ultimately, because the nation of Israel will be immortals. They're going to have the new bodies where we're going to have the law, statutes, commandments written in our inward parts, never to go off ever again, because we know that the wages of sin are death. The wages of sin are death. And if we don't sin, then therefore we're not going to die. So how is a mortal supposed to come against a immortal that can't die? You just can't. But ultimately, that's what these other Christians, these other Israelite camps are pushing, that the Edomites are going to rise against the nation of Israel once we're in the new bodies. But no, man, the nation of Israel, once this devil gets brought down, his empire gets destroyed, which is America, Babylon the Great, gets destroyed by those missiles, then we know that the kingdom of heaven is right there. First the elect will get beamed up into the chariots, get changed into the new bodies, get crowned, the ceremony, and then however many years pass, after the destruction of America, come down and start putting these elites in slavery and build the kingdom during that 1,000 year period, and then eventually do away with the Edomites, completely put them to death, make them extinct, however you want to say it. The Edomites are the only nation that are prophesied to not receive any mercy, because the whole world is going to benefit off the nation of Israel being in rulership. There will be clean water, clean air, real food. Everybody's going to be in order. Women aren't going to be out of order. Everybody's going to benefit. But under this devil, Esau, even the self-proclaimed white man's rulership, nobody benefits. Only he benefits. But if you was to let him rule another 100, 200,000 years, he would destroy him. So that's ultimately why Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai is going to have to bring this devil down very soon. And we're seeing all the signs that are pointing towards the devil, the rulership of this devil, the self-proclaimed white man, which that word devil means deceiver, is almost at its end. This is 2nd Ezra chapter 6 and verse 9. For Esau is the end of the world. And who's Esau? The twin brother of Jacob. But who's right? Who's gonna rule right after? And Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth, and that's right. Jacob, Israel, Yasharallah, they're the ones that have next after this devil gets brought down from his high and lofty position. You know, he's proud and haughty, thinking that he can't be brought down. But we know ultimately that Esau, Edom, you know, is being fattened up for the slaughter. That Yahweh Shemel Shai is letting them get proud so he could bring them, you know, that's just going to exalt Yahweh Shemel Shai more. I'm going to get that real quick in Romans, I think. Yeah, Romans 9:17. For the scripture said unto Pharaoh, even for this same purpose have I raised thee up, that I might shew my power in thee, and that my name might be declared throughout all the earth. And that's right. Ultimately, Yahweh Shemel Shai raised up this devil, Esau, Edom, the self-proclaimed white man, to let him get puffed up. So when he brings him down, that's just going to exalt Yahweh Shemel Shai more, because right now, America looks unbeatable. They look like they can't be taken down. You look at their military, their missiles, their tanks, their Black Hawk helicopters, you know, their aircraft. They just look unbeatable. But that's why it's gonna look like, damn, this was he who was in rulership, and he got brought down by Yahweh Shemel Shai, and that's just gonna exalt the Lord more. And that's the point, you know, because ultimately Yahweh Shemel Shai is the one who sets up the different kings, the kingdoms, but also he's the one that brings them down. Let me get that real quick. This is Daniel chapter 4 and verse 17. This matter is by the decree of the watchers and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and give it to whomsoever he will, and set it up over it the bases of man. And who are the bases of man? Are these self-proclaimed white people, which are really the Edomites, the descendants of Esau. You know, we know that he was binded up for 1,000 years, but he would be released from that prison, that bottomless pit, you know, ultimately to cause hell upon the earth, to put hell on the nation of Israel. But we know that time of putting that yoke, or having that yoke, you know, on the nation of Israel is coming to an end very soon. This is Revelation chapter 20 and verse 1. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. Verse 2, and he laid hold the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil, and Satan, and bound him up 1,000 years. And ultimately, that's, you know, that old serpent, the devil, Satan. That's not going into, you know, the spiritual demon Satan. No, that's going into man. And who's that? That serpent, the devil, the deceiver, you know, who's deceiving the whole nations right now, is the self-proclaimed white people, the Edomites, the elites. You know, ultimately, when they fell, the Western Roman Empire fell, that's when Jake took over. You know, then you had the Holy Roman Empire, which, you know, they really was going off, you know, during the Byzantine Empire. But from that period, from the 1300s, from the 300s, 400s, you know, AD, for those 1,000 years, you know, they were bounded up. They were in the caves. You know, that's why they call themselves the Caucasians, which really means cave dweller. You know, but eventually right here, it's prophesied for them to lose that little season. You know, to go around the earth and cause hell. Revelation chapter 20 and verse 3, and cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled, and after that he must be loosed a little season. And that bottomless pit, that's going into Europe. That's where Esau, Edom, you know, the self-proclaimed white people, the Caucasians, got put in those caves, you know, to be, you know, pretty much locked up for those 1,000 years, to ultimately be let go during the 1400s, 1500s, during the so-called Renaissance period. Then that's when, they were loose for that little season that is almost come at the end. Because he's pretty much gone out throughout the four corners of the earth, deceived the whole nations, deceived everybody into following his philosophies, drinking the wine of Babylon, made the whole world to believe that, he's God, and Caesar, Jesus Christ is that Caesar Borgia image. He's pretty much deceived the whole nations, thinking that he's God. And the whole nations fell for it, but now they're waking up to the fact, that this devil really ain't shit. That's why everybody's turning against him. Everybody's doing away with his dollar. Everybody's breaking their alliance with him, because this devil has gone throughout the earth and just destroyed, murdered, robbed resources. He's not a profitable person to rule. He's not fit for rulership. That's ultimately why he has to be brought down. Get this next one. This is Ecclesiasticus chapter 10 and verse 4, also known as Sirach. The power of the earth is in the hand of the Lord, and in due time he will set over it one that is profitable. And that's right. Ultimately, Yahweh Shemiel Shai is the one that sets up these different kingdoms, these different kings, to rule upon the planet Earth. But we know that all these different kingdoms fell, from the Egyptians, the Assyrians, the Neo-Babylonian Empire, the Medes and the Persians, the Greeks, and then the Romans. And now we're in that revival of the Roman Empire. I'm going to jump down to verse 8, Sirach chapter 10 and verse 8. Because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. And that's ultimately how Esau, Edom, the self-proclaimed white man, has gotten rulership of the whole entire earth. The unrighteous dealings, during the time of when Esau came down here to the Americas and made treaties with the so-called Native Americans, the tribe of Gad, which is the tribe of Gad, and the tribe of Reuben, and backstabbed them, gave them blankets with diseases to kill them off, injuries. He's constantly bombing these other nations, taking their resources, so-called, putting democracy that is going to better the nations. But once this devil goes into these nations and tries to so-called help him out, he just makes things worse. And riches got by this seed. That's how he has complete control of the whole world's economy through deceit. Through the U.S. dollar, taking it off the silver standard, taking it off the gold standard. This dollar isn't backed up by anything. The kingdom is translated from one people to another. And who are the next people, the next nation that's going to rule up on the planet Earth, that's going to rule in righteousness, push the law, statutes, commandments throughout the earth? Because ultimately that's how the earth is supposed to be ran. It's supposed to be ran by the law, statutes, commandments. But this devil, he has done the complete opposite. He rules it in wickedness. He has turned everything upside down. So we know that Yahweh Shemiel Shai is going to have to bring this devil down very soon, because if not, he will destroy the whole earth. This is 2 Ezra chapter 4 and verse 29. If therefore that which is sown be not turned upside down, and if the place where the evil is sown pass not away, then cannot it come that is sown with good. And right now, the thing, the place that was sown upside down is this current rulership. being ran by this devil, Esau, Edom, the self-proclaimed white man. Pretty much is everything's upside down here. You know, you got the women ruling over the men. You got children out here running loose, out of order, the YNs. You got Keisha twerking. You got, you know, the Mo agenda, the alphabet agenda. You know, everybody wants to be a Mo. You know, you got Jake selling out to Esau, Edom, bending over, sacrificing their family members. This place is completely upside down. It's completely contrary to the scriptures, but we know that it has to happen, you know, to be an example of how not to rule the planet Earth, and what's going to happen to a kingdom that rules in wickedness. Ultimately, America, Babylon the Great, is going to be an example of how not to rule the earth. That's ultimately why this place is going to be burnt up, you know, for all the wickedness, all the deceitfulness that is pushed out throughout the earth. You know, because a lot of people believe that somehow America, you know, Babylon the Great, you know, is going to come back to his glory, you know, during the time of when Esau was at his peak, you know, right after the Second World War, you know, when all the nations feared him, ultimately because they feared him because he had those nukes, you know, the atomic bombs. He bombed Japan, you know, Nagasaki and Hiroshima. But now all these different nations, now they have nuclear capabilities as well. That's ultimately why that war over there in Israel and Iran is happening, because now every nation is saying, you know, let the weak say I'm strong. So all these nations, they're not scared of this damn devil of America anymore. This is Jeremiah chapter 51 and verse 7. Babylon had been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken over wine, therefore the nations are mad. And that's right. That's ultimately why the whole earth is in the condition it's in, because it has drunken off that cup. The philosophies of Babylon is democracy, is US dollar, is way of life, you know, the feminism, the alphabet agenda, you know, what women being in positions of power. Now we're seeing the effects of that, you know, Section 8, food stamps, the man being out of the house. You know, you got all these different social media influencers influence all the whole earth of how not to live, how to be wicked. You know, but ultimately now all these nations have woken up, you know, off of that drunken state, and all these nations are mad at this whore for giving them that cup to drink, you know, pushing that cup to these different nations to drink it. Verse 8, Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. How for her? Take balm for her pain. If so be, she may be healed. And that's right. Ultimately, Babylon, mystery of Babylon, Babylon the Great, which is America, is going to be destroyed by those intercontinental ballistic missiles. And we can see that's right around the corner from all these different prophecies taking place. You know, you got the war over there in Iran and Israel just ramping up more and more. You got the MOTB, which is the micro sea here right around the corner. Everything's set up for this devil's kingdom to fall and get translated to the next nation, which is going to be the nation of Israel, which is going to establish the kingdom of heaven upon the planet Earth. But we know that America has to be destroyed first. Verse 9, we would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her and let us go every one into his own country, for her judgment reaches unto heaven and is lifted up even to the skies. So this place that we call America, Babylon the Great, is not going to be healed. It is imploding in itself. You know, it's just collapsing more. The infrastructure is collapsing. The mores on these people are getting worse. You know, the love of many is waxing cold. These people know that this place is through, but, you know, they have that hope that somehow it's going to be healed. But no, this devil's kingdom, his time of ruling upon the planet Earth is coming to an end very soon. And it's gonna be this kingdom is going to be ended by those missiles, by that intercontinental ballistic missiles, which is going to cause that nuclear fire to burn this whore. Because ultimately that's the judgment for a whore, for a witch, is fire. So that's how this place is gonna end. But also it's right after this whore gets burned, that's when the kingdom of heaven comes right after. And that's what we're looking forward to. We're looking forward to the kingdom of heaven. But we know that these different prophecies have to play out. We know that we have to go through Jacob's trouble, martial law, the hour of temptation. But ultimately, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua is going to keep his hope, his elect. We hope to be of that number. That's why we're giving diligence to make our calling and election sure. To be kept from all these different calamities that are coming upon the planet Earth. You got Jacob's trouble just pretty much has started, but a lot of people don't see it. That's why they're going to get hit, because they're expecting that this place to somehow be healed, to continue another 100, 200, 300 years. But we know that that's not the case. We know that this place, it's on his last leg. It's on his way out. But that's pretty much the point. I pray that this is edifying to the elect. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushua, Ba'Shem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who I learned this truth from the well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000 and the rest of the 1/3.